Cup of the Word, we're back in Psalm 119 here on Monday. We're in the fourth part of 5 parts that we've broken Psalm 119 into. It is the longest psalm after all, and we wanted to give it its proper time. And as we start here in verse 105 through 112, we look at this stanza, which, once again, it's an alphabetical psalm, so if you were a Jew and you could read Hebrew, you would see that each stanza started with a different letter, a consecutive letter of the Hebrew alphabet. We'll go through all 22 letters. But in verse 105 through 112, we look at the law, and we look at it, and the psalmist says the law is a commitment. You know, to say that we love God's law is not just some flippant statement, but it is a vow. It is a belief that we will, regardless of what life brings with us, stick to what God says. We have committed to following His pattern. And that means opening ourselves to suffering. And it means delaying instant gratification and doing things that sometimes will prevent us from immediate relief of pain and prolong our suffering for the greater good of serving God and our hope of eternity in Him. And so there is a meaningness to God's law that is more than just, oh, this is a great philosophy, but something I can throw and shuck off as soon as life changes and my mood alters. This is a life plan, and it is a principle and foundation to everything that we do. Then from verse 113 through 120, we look at another stanza, and this stanza deals with the fact that the moment you say you'll obey God, you've chosen sides. And God's teachings are something that do that. They set you at odds with the world, and the world will despise you for your beliefs. And you will find yourselves at enmity and disgusted with the ways of the world. You won't be comfortable in the world anymore. You'll see things on television, and you'll hear the way people talk and the way people act, and it will bother you in a way that it just simply doesn't bother worldly people. And whenever you set yourself at odds with somebody, you've gone to war, there's conflict. Well, who's going to win? Whoever has the strongest army. And let me say, our King is the great one. He will take us through all the trials, and ultimate victory belongs to God because His commands are from His voice. When we're obeying His commands, we're saying we're soldiers of the great and almighty Jehovah. And then from verse 121 through 128, we have the next stanza, and it goes back to, once again, talking about the law as a commitment, but it flips it to another side, and it says the law is a contract. And in any contract, when you commit to it, there's somebody else committing as well. And in this case, the other party in the contract is God. So when you go through difficult things, and when you say, I'll do what God says, and so you go through life and you say, I'm going to do what God says even when it's hard. And then by doing what God says, you get yourself into a predicament that's difficult and people dislike you, or life is difficult and there are trials and temptations and struggles that you can't handle. The other party in the contract shows up. God intervenes. And so His commandments are not just simply a way for you to live life, but it is a promise for Him that I will intervene in your life. When you need me there, I will be there for you. Then from verse 129 through verse 136, we look at the law as just light in our life. You know, when the sun comes out, it changes your mood. When you smell fresh air out in the woods and you're hiking, it changes your demeanor. That's what the law is. It's a light to your heart, and it's a breath of fresh air for your soul. It just invigorates you and gives you a health to your soul that just doesn't exist without God in it. There is a hole built within us, and a desire for eternity and a desire for our Creator that God puts into every human heart. And so many people neglect their soul. And yet God's commandment is meant to be food for it, to truly feed your soul so that you are complete and satiated with what He has provided. And then from verse 137 through about verse 144, we see another letter, another stanza. And this one deals with the fact that God's laws, they're truth. They're not just opinion, they're the truth. And so you can take them to the bank. It's not like God just said, well, I think this or I feel this way, but this is the way things actually work. So when you read in God's Word, when you read in the Bible that do this or follow this, it's because that really is the right path. I mean, that really is the way that will get you where you want to go. You know, if you get on a certain road, it'll always take you to the same destination. God's Word will always take you to the destination of salvation and truth and the right answers and everything working out as they ought to work out. That's the road. That's the narrow road that is God's commandment. It is the way of truth. It will always turn out right because God knows what is right. That's your Daily Cup, and we'll see you tomorrow.